Ceylon acquired its independence in 1948 and has been known since then as Sri Lanka. Due to its location at the crossroads of key maritime trade routes, Sri Lanka is a vital naval link between Western Asia and Southeast Asia. This has been a center of Buddhist culture and religion since antiquity, and today it's a multi-ethnic and religiously diverse country. Sri Lanka is famous for producing and exporting tea, coffee, rubber, and coconut. But beside these, there is a product that is unknown in some countries in Latin America called cardamom. This species was introduced in Guatemala in 1914, and today it's the largest cardamom exporter in the world. It is also grown in Colombia, and to know a little bit more about it, we have to go to Valparaíso, a town located in the southwest of Antioquia, a province located in the heart of Colombia, where this species has been grown for approximately 12 years. There we spoke to some farmers who told us more about this crop. But before, let's get to know its origins and the challenges associated with working with this crop.
We're in the town of Valparaíso, Antioquia. It's a small but friendly, amicable town. People here are of the highest quality. I've had this farm here for the last 25 years, and I didn't have any promising cash crops that could generate income, but I had soursop trees, plantains, and little things. It was practically a recreational farm. So it turns out that our town, Valparaíso, has been a very, very calm town without many problems, but with high unemployment. We reached a point 14 years ago when we started to see social problems because of this. Talking with friends from here who have farms in the area, we talked about these events and said, I'm going through the same thing. What are we going to do with these good people? So all of us, a group of 5 friends who have good farms here, we resolved to have a coffee in the town square and think, how are we going to improve this? Because we were facing social problems, and that is a calamity. While doing this, we were there at 10 o'clock in the morning. Some gentlemen from the town of Jericho showed up, looking for people who wanted to plant cardamom. It was completely new to us. We didn't even know what the word cardamom meant. So in talking to these gentlemen, and I will make a long story short, we reached the conclusion that it was the solution due to the crop's advantages. Cardamom was a mysterious plant in this area. Everyone said, what is that plant? Is it a wild plantain? Is it a heliconia? But when you start working with this crop, you begin to see its benefits because it's a crop that gives a very good yield and can generate a lot of jobs. So you end up helping the region as well. The hardest part of starting out with cardamom was changing the mentality of the farm workers used to growing coffee, because this is coffee country. In any case, we changed minds. We still haven't been able to generate the kind of trust and enthusiasm that all should put into this kind of crop. This has been very hard work, since it's hard for people to believe in a new plant, a plant that nobody knows. You ask people, do you know what cardamom is? And they say, I've heard that it's a fruit that supposedly fights bad breath, but that's as far as they go. That is true. It's very good for your breath. In any case, that's been the main obstacle, because convincing farmers to get into this is very hard, and there is also the financial part. Why? Because no government entities, nor anyone in the governor's office or the culture ministry, nor people involved in farming knew about cardamom. They don't know it, still don't know it. They don't know what the story is. So it's been very difficult to reach these conclusions. The hardest thing about starting with cardamom wasn't just the cultivation, but selling it as well. Since this is a product purely for export, establishing contacts abroad in order to export took time. My father already had a lot of experience with the growing side of the operation, and we were able to solve a lot of problems as they arose. But on the issue of exporting, we had a lot to learn in order to communicate fluidly and profitably with different cultures. Such as Arab Muslims, people from India, people from Pakistan. So the hardest part was learning to speak in other languages so we could understand each other commercially.
Cardamom is a type of herbaceous plant, perennial and aromatic, that can grow from 2 meters in height, reaching up to 4 meters. Its foliage is alternate-leaved and lanceolated, and its size ranges from 40 to 60 centimeters. The flowers are white and pale violet. The fruit is a green-yellow pod that's between 1 and 2 centimeters long, and it contains small black seeds. From cardamom's taxonomy, its scientific name is Eleutheria cardamomum. It belongs to the Zingiberaceae family and to the Zingiber genus. Among its family are also found Musaceae, which is the banana plant, and Heliconias. It has a monocot seedlings, meaning it has just one cotyledon, thus making its reproduction easier. It is a perennial crop, meaning its production process lasts a long time. We can find 40-year-old trees in this family of cardamom. This is a herbaceous bush. It's a herbaceous plant that can grow to 4 meters high and to 1 to 1.5 meters wide. The cardamom plant has a lanceolated type leaves. Its flowers are hermaphrodites that pollinate by entomophily, meaning that 71% of cardamom flowers are pollinized by insects, primarily of the order Hymenoptera, that is ants, honeybees, bumblebees. This family accounts for 71% of pollination. The other 26% is due to rain or wind, and the remainder of the pollination process occurs through natural autogamy, meaning that since the plant's flowers are hermaphrodites, they self-pollinate.
The plant reproduces itself not so easily through seed. It reproduces sexually, and it takes a long time for the plant to reach these sizes. This is what you see here. It's done that way, as a trial. Evidently, it yields good results, but takes a long time. Otherwise, the way to grow this crop is by using a rhizome like this.
When seedlings grow 3 to 4 leaves in the seedbed, they are transplanted to the nursery, where they must be protected in the shade. The design of the nursery is tailored to the specific needs of the grower. However, the use of plastic bags as pots is common in order to facilitate handling and to guarantee good anchoring in the planting field. Between 20 and 30 days before transplanting to the field, the shade in the nursery must be removed to help the plants acclimate. By this time, the plant should be between 60 and 80 centimeters tall.
Planting must be performed in loose soil. That's why we must use lands that have good topsoil and are thus easier to cultivate.
Que tengan buena capa vegetal y sean pues más fáciles de cultivar.
As I was saying, we generally propagate cardamom through rhizome. By propagating through rhizome, we have to take a keen interest in the crop, doing the labors necessary for the plant to thrive, and avoiding uncomfortable situations in the soil.
Con bastante interés haciéndole las labores culturales que se necesitan para que la planta surja en buena forma, no mantener.
As you can see here, there are no weeds in the soil. Weeds are little plants that sprout up. Why? Because cardamom creates its own shade, and with that shade, it eliminates weeds. However, you have to plant it under high shade because that is what really protects the plant and makes it more productive.
The cardamom plant prospers under man-made or natural forest shade, consisting a simultaneous agroforestry system. In Colombia, the plant develops well in altitudes between 600 and 1,500 meters above sea level, and average annual temperatures between 18 degrees and 35 degrees Celsius. The plant's light and ventilation requirements vary according to its development phase. Therefore, shade must be regulated in a timely fashion in order to foster the right microclimate. Cardamom's agroecological requirements are: they need an optimum temperature between 18 and 35 degrees Celsius, an altitude between 600 and 1,500 meters above sea level. They also need 75% relative humidity. They need a slope between 5% and 20%. They need sandy loam soil. What is sandy loam soil? It has more sand than silt and clay. This is the optimum soil for the crop. The crop also needs shade to cover between 70 and 80%. The shade should be high. The canopy must not be too dense. And it should ideally be a legume, since they perform nitrogen fixation, where they pick up the nitrogen in the atmosphere and process it into the soil to feed the plant. And cardamom is one of the crops that most needs nitrogen. Besides that, legumes have a very thin leaf, which allows the sun's rays to reach the crop and perform the right process.
Fortunately, very few pests attack cardamom. Generally, we see root pests such as fusarium, which can cause rotting of the roots. You can see when the plant is infected with fusarium because its leaves start to turn yellow. You immediately have to eliminate that plant because fusarium is very invasive, or apply commercially available solutions. So that is one of the pests. It also has another pest that we are experiencing now that is very serious, which is thrips. Thrips are a small insect that appears during periods of high temperatures. These cursed thrips eat the shell. They eat the shell and leave a kind of weaving, which is kind of pretty. Despite that, it does not damage the seed inside. Cardamom like this can only fetch a low price. It's easily rejected because it looks bad. Another pest you see in this crop is the palm weevil, which is an insect that starts to attack from the base of the plant where it starts to eat, making a tunnel and thus hurting the plant. But that is a bug that, for us, is the least dangerous because it can be attacked easily. They're easy to spot and we kill them easily. They're easy to control.
Now let's learn about the upkeep required for this crop so that it stays in good shape. Good morning, Don Albeiro. How are you?
Very well, and you?
What are you doing now?
I'm cleaning up these cardamom plants.
And for what purpose?
I am pruning and removing excess leaves, now that it rained a bit, to open up some room for this flowering that's growing here.
What Don Albeiro did to this plant was phytosanitary pruning. The phytosanitary pruning he performed was drastic because the plant was being affected by direct sunlight. These leaves here are the oldest. The leaves start from the old here to the younger leaves at the top of the plant. And in the oldest parts, you have to do phytosanitary pruning. This control has to be very strict. It's a very strict control because my plant can be otherwise affected. Precisely because these leaves that are starting to decompose and which are attached to the plant can affect me by producing too much humidity. And when you have a lot of humidity inside the plant, you can easily have proliferation of fungi. As we can see in this plant the pruning hasn't been done yet, and the leaves that are decomposing on the plant are preventing sunlight from reaching the leaves that are really going to produce food for the fruit. So I have to shape the plant and allow these green leaves to get sunlight so that the chlorophyll can act. And when the chlorophyll acts, it will carry food to my product.
We've done well with cardamom. We've done well because, truthfully, this is easier to work than coffee, and it's more, well, people are buying it. They're buying it all the time.
We have seen some of the care needed for the cardamom crop, how to control disease, and how to keep it in optimum conditions. Now, let's look at the final process before commercialization.
How do we process this plant? Here we receive the cherry cardamom. Cherry cardamom is the cardamom that is harvested at the plantation. When the cardamom reaches the plant, we begin the drying process. It enters the machine, it goes to the silo where it stays between 38 and 40 hours at temperatures that range from 25 to 45 or 48 degrees Celsius. As time goes on, and with the experience that we have, we know how frequently we need to manage the temperatures. When the drying process is finished, it goes to the tip removing machine. Tip removal consists on detaching a small stem in the back of the pod. This must be done immediately after drying. It goes to tip removal. It can now go to storage, where the monitoring process continues. Monitoring is to sort the sizes. We separate out 5 different sizes. Then we continue the process of color sorting, which is done by the Zelt, a machine we call Zelt. We have 2 other machines. One is a catcher and the other is still, where we clean up debris and we take out all imperfect or immature grains that come with the product. So we clean up with those 2 machines. Then it goes to the women, where they finish cleaning and removing all the cast-offs. We remove cast-offs so that we keep only the degrees of quality that we handle. Here we produce 9 quality grades of cardamom. There are grades of green. Besides that, there's a cast-off, which are the black pods or stained pods, and also those that are cracked, which we call open. That gets set aside. So that is the work that they're doing right now. After classification comes warehousing. There are two types of warehousing. Raw warehousing. Raw meaning it leaves the silo, goes through the monitor, and is sorted by size. The other type of warehousing is when it goes through the whole process, when it's gone through the tip remover, through the monitor, through the Zeltron, through the catcher, through the still, and through the women's hands. And that is the final storage process, and it's ready for packaging. By now, we need to have all 12 grades separated.
To finish off, Jaime Munera and his father Alonso would tell us what working with cardamom means to them.
Personally, working with cardamom for me has been very satisfying from a personal point of view. I have a great love for the countryside, a deep affection, a great enthusiasm for country folk to get ahead. So from that point of view, I'm committed to it. I love the subject. I want to spread it. I want many growers to get into the field because if we join together and join our efforts, we can be part of the solution for the environment, for the planet we want to leave our grandchildren. I'm an accountant, and for me, working with cardamom solved a very important problem, mental tranquility, because being here in this environment is definitely an incredible therapy. I worked in accounting for 65 years. I am now 81 years old, and people tell me I don't look older than 60. That is because this that I've been doing for 15 years has given me an inner peace and a way to relax.